Greetings to all our viewers. You are welcome to this channel. We thank you for patronizing this channel. In the last episode, we began an introduction on the laws of nature. And we presented some classifications of the laws of nature in terms of broad classification of the laws of nature. What can we call the laws of nature in terms of the constitution of nature, the rules guiding nature, the rules, the procedure, and we were able to classify these laws into 9. Of course, the classification is not exhaustive. Depending on circumstances, depending on our approach, we could still have more. Okay, but we just decided to use those 9 classifications as the basis for further discussions on the laws of nature. In today's episode, we are focusing on the laws of science, because when we talk about the laws of nature, we have in mind, with respect to this channel, the laws of science, the laws of theology, and the laws of philosophy. So today we are focusing on the laws of science. What are the laws of science? But first, we're going to present science as it is. What is science? What are the broad areas of science? Because we must understand what science is before we can carry out detailed mention of the laws which govern science. So today we are going to look into science. What is science? What are the broad areas of science? We hope that you are going to enjoy today's episode. Thank you. Laws of nature. So, with respect to the focus of this channel, we can break the laws of nature into 3. Namely, laws of science, laws of theology, and laws of philosophy. Because we recall that this channel is focused on the interrelationship among science, theology, and philosophy. If you are new viewers of this channel, you are just watching for the first time, we want to encourage you to watch the preceding episodes in this channel, and you'll be able to see all the various concepts that we have considered with respect to interrelationship among science, theology, and philosophy. So today's is on laws of nature, and we have just mentioned that with respect to the simplification concerning this channel, we are talking about the laws of science, laws of theology, and laws of philosophy. And we mentioned in preceding episodes that by the laws, we are just referring to the constitution, the rules, the procedures, the guidelines, which, control or direct the affairs of nature. And knowing these laws really help human beings and all the living things and non-living things to appreciate nature, and it helps human beings to really be able to perform to the optimal level. So we look at the broad fields of science, because in considering the laws of nature, today's episode is on the laws of science. We are bringing out the laws of science. In the subsequent episodes, we will be considering the laws of theology, then the laws of philosophy. But today, we are considering the laws of science within the purview of the laws of nature. But before we consider the laws of science, it is important for us to understand what science is. We know science has been there for a long time, and we have people specialized in science, and every day we have words relating to science, scientific development, scientific knowledge, and so on and so forth. But it is important for us to really understand the concept of science, because we have diverse audience, so that we can understand where we are going. Because when we talk about the laws of science, we want to talk about the laws of the various areas of science. So broad fields of science, we can talk about physical science, we can talk about mathematical science, we can talk about biological science, we can talk about chemical science, and we can talk about social science. Please take note that we just presented a simple classification, a simple division of the broad fields of science. Of course, every day new areas keep on emerging, not only in science but in other fields of study. So, but it is good, we can just use this as a traditional classification for us to have understanding of the various fields of science. Physical science, mathematical science, biological science, chemical science, and social science. So the next question is, what is physical science? So simply put, we can represent physical science in terms of physics as a field of study on its own, and geology. Remember, I said we have just presented a simple classifications of science and the various fields of science. With developments in every day, we have more specialized classification. But it is good for us to just understand the traditional areas of this classification. So we can talk about physics. For someone who wants to understand what physical science is, simply physics and geology. Of course, in line with what we just explained, before geology came into being as a field of study, we only had something like physics. So geology came, later as a specialized field of study. And when you look at it, physics just talks about the physical, generally talks about the physical realms of the universe. What you can touch, what you can manipulate, what you can exploit, in contrast to the non-physical materials, non-physical subjects, particles, not simple beings, non-physical beings of the universe. So we can talk about, apart from physics, we can talk about geology. We can see that we have geology made up from geo and logy. And geo is generally represents the earth. So geology talks about the study of the earth, the various formations in the earth. We want to talk about the rock, the mountains, and so on and so forth. So geology is best suited for that, even though physics is a broad field, but geology deals specifically with issues dealing with rocks, mountains, and such elements of nature. Then we can also talk about mathematical science. As the name implies, when you talk about mathematical science, we have in mind three basic fields of study, which is mathematics. The fields of study are mathematics, computer science, and statistics. Of course, before the evolution of computer science and statistics, when you talk about mathematical science, you only had mathematics. And of course, if you want to have another classification, you could consider mathematics as part of physical science. But since we now have computer science, statistics, we can group these three together under mathematical science. So of course, mathematics just talks about the science of numbers, measurement, and things related to that. Of course, we talk about mathematics, you can talk about algebra, you can talk about geometry, and so on and so forth. And computer science evolved from mathematics. With increasing development, there was need for further specialization. And computer science, as it is presently, could be traced to the 1960s, when formal study of computer science as a degree program started in the universities. And of course, computer science is just the science that deals with machines, that manipulates input, that takes in input, processes it or manipulates it, and you bring out the output. We don't need to overemphasize the importance of computer science in the present generation, because there is scarcely any activity you want to perform that you won't find some elements of computer science there, right from our phones, our laptops, communications, and so on and so forth. Then statistics may simply just be described, for the layman as the science that deals with, issues relating with certainties and uncertainties. And the best description that would make people understand statistics is to talk about probability. You have a system and you want to know how sure, how certain you can be to have a particular result. A simple example, when you look at the conventional die, you throw a die, it can be 1, it can be 2, it can be 3, it can be 4, 5, and 6. We want to talk about what is the probability, what is the certainty that you are going to have 1 when you throw your die, or when you throw the dice, 2 dice, what is the probability that you are going to have 1 on one and 6 on the other? Or you have your coin, you toss your coin, what is the probability that's going to be head, that's going to be tail? So these are the areas that statistics is more focused for. Okay. Then, mentioning mathematical science, we can now move to the next, which is the biological science. As the name implies, you can see the biology. Biology talks about living things, study of living things. So for biological science, we can talk about some of the traditional areas of biological science. Just like with respect to the other fields that I've mentioned earlier, we know that for a more technical or professional classification, it might not be in this form. But these are traditional areas that can make us to understand biological sciences, because since the advent, because of development, there have been so many other areas that have evolved. So if you have a particular viewer whose area is not specifically mentioned, someone working who is a virologist, for instance, it doesn't mean that we have not recognized. We have just used this for the general audience so that we can have a good understanding of the broad field of biological science. So we can talk about microbiology, we can talk about botany, and we can talk about zoology. And in simple terms, when you talk about microbiology, you are just talking biology of microorganisms and things that you may not easily see with your aided eye, tiny objects, and so on and so forth. When you talk about botany, you are talking about the biology of plants, okay? And when you talk about zoology, you are talking about the biology of animals. And when you talk about animals, we are using it in a generic sense, and goats, rabbits, and all the other lions, tigers, they are also within this classification. And like I said, for the professionals, we have so many other distinct classifications, distinct areas that are broken out of this area. For instance, one can talk about bioinformatics, for instance, which is actually an emerging area, which is a combination of biology and informatics. And even within the mathematical sciences now, bioinformatics is being studied. So the typical mathematical scientist can say, okay, bioinformatics is also within air because you study bioinformatics within computer science, statistics, mathematics. Bioinformatics acts as the elements, the tools of computer science, statistics, and mathematics. But we just presented simple classification. So biological sciences, microbiology, botany, and zoology. Then we move to the next. Remember, we started from air physical science, we moved to mathematical science, from physical science to mathematical science, then biological science. So the next is the chemical science. So in terms of chemical science, we can see that we have just used 5 branches for chemical science, just like the others also. A professional classification may involve more other areas because new areas are emerging every day, and we are having new fields that are breaking away from this conservative classification. So under chemical science, we can talk about physical chemistry. Okay? So you can see physical chemistry. So this one deals with the physical principles of atoms and molecules. And then you can talk about organic chemistry. This where you have structures of life and so on and so forth. So you can talk about the chemistry of life. That is simply put the organic chemistry. And the inorganic chemistry is just talking about non-life chemistry, to put it in the simple way. And then you can talk about analytical chemistry, where here it's a field, it's a subfield that uses more of analytical tools, mathematical tools, modeling tools, and so on, to aid the understanding of chemical processes. We should take note at this juncture that we didn't include engineering here because we know that engineering is applied science. So we could have talked about chemical engineering, which is applied form of chemistry. Chemical engineering could fall within chemistry, chemical sciences could also fall within engineering. But that is applied science, which is technology. And primarily, this channel does not focus, on the applied science per se. But you get to apply science using the tools of science. You manipulate the tools of science to get your results in applied science and engineering. So the analytical chemistry talks where you use analytical tools, your models, and so on and so forth to arrive at the result. Okay? This is analytical tools. And then you now have the last but not the least, which is biochemistry. Okay, we can see bio and then chemistry. It's a product of the biological aspect and chemistry. Well, someone else in a department or in a unit, biochemistry could have been placed under biological sciences because of the concept, but it's more, can consider it as closer to chemical sciences, so to say, than biological sciences. And then it's simply the chemistry of living organisms in general. And that is why in some of these fields, when you talk about medicine, you have biochemistry within the College of Medicine of universities, in many cases, because of the nature of the field. So we have chemical science, physical chemistry. We study the physical principles of atoms and molecules. Organic chemistry, the chemistry of life. Inorganic chemistry, non-life chemistry, so to say, just the opposite of organics. In simple terms, the analytical chemistry which is more like the tool, the mathematical, the aspect, the branch that uses tools in the physical or in the mathematical science to analyze chemical structure. And then you have the biochemistry, which is the science of living organisms. And last but not the least, we have treated physical science, we have treated mathematical science, we have treated biological science, we have treated chemical science. Now, for us to have an overview of what social science is all about. Of course, when you talk about social science, it's also very, very diverse. And the classification that we have presented here, we have 7 here, is by no means, comprehensive. We have so many areas, fields of social sciences, and because of developments, many fields keep on emerging. So, but we can use this as a form of traditional classification for us to have understanding of what social science is all about. Of course, you can get a glimpse of what social science is about from the word social, which is talking about more the behavioral aspect of human beings, unlike the other fields, the physical sciences, the physical part, mathematical sciences, where you can use analytical tools to explain science. Then biological science, you are talking about the biology, living things. Chemistry, you are talking about representation of living, life, non-living things in terms of some structures, the chemical composition, so to say. And then, but social science talks about the behavior. So you have economics, okay, which is study of opportunity cost. You can say study of needs, study of wants, study of choice, and so on and so forth. Then you have sociology, which is more like culture, humans in society, and you have political science, which is study of how society is governed. You talk about psychology, talking about the mind, how the mind works and so on. And anthropology is close to sociology, but it's more, it talks about the evolution of the universe. You can talk about how civilizations have emerged in terms of the physical aspect of the civilization. Then you can talk about the accounting, where you want to talk about balance sheet, profit, laws, how you can have a system to bring out financial accountability. Okay? Then you can talk about business administration, as the name implies. We are talking about how a business organization can be effectively managed. So that's what social science encompasses. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, where we consider the various fields of science as a precursor to our discussion in the next episode. We want to thank you for watching this episode. Please stay tuned to watch the next episode, where we are going to look at specific laws of science with respect to nature. Please, we encourage you to go through our previous episodes so that you can flow along with us with respect to our various discussions, because every present discussion is preceded usually by an episode, by a discussion that was made in an episode. So please stay tuned and join us in the next episode. Thank you very much.